Fine, I'll shut it off. I don't know.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hey, welcome everybody to Wire, where everyone can be a woman, just like we can all live in Fayetteville or North or South, or we can all be new investors because it's all online. You can be anything you want. But what you should do is please turn your camera on so we can see your lovely faces, because when we do get back to live, we aren't going to recognize you if we can't see you now. I love to see that Helen Feeney has figured out her camera. Yay, Helen, you look gorgeous. Thanks everyone for being here. Andrea has a great program lined up for you today, but we're going to do our little announcements first, and we have something new that we are doing today. You notice we didn't have our member spotlight videos, and that's one of our key networking that we're doing now, is allowing you to introduce yourself to people by making a member spotlight, and we take turns showing them at all of our meetings. So what we're going to do is have one of our members on every meeting from now on introduce themselves, and you don't have to figure out what to say because we have a list of questions for you. You just have to go through them. So after our announcements, we'll try this for the first time today. And if you would like to volunteer to give a little hello to the rest of the meeting, please put a note in the chat. First one we get is going to get it. If we don't get anyone, then we're going to pick one of you. So we'll see how that goes. Again, networking is something we're working on, and we're always trying new ideas such as this to get people circulating and getting to know each other, and you know, getting out there to know what you're looking for or what you want to do or what you want to get out of TREIA. So this is one new way to do that. Also, remember to join the Triangle Real Estate Investors Association networking group on Facebook. There's tons of networking going on there. And so we are doing the best we can until we can get back in person. We're hoping that'll be real soon. We do check in with all of our venues for our main meeting and subgroup every month. And so far, it's a no for all of them. No to the number that we would have for a gathering, with a possible exception of Fayetteville. They might be live soon. Okay, so Helen, do you want to do the introduction today when it's time? Say yes. Give me a thumbs up. All right, Helen, I'm going to send you a chat in just a minute. Okay. All right, yay. I'll be sending you a chat in just a minute. Okay, other than that, guys, remember to send us your suggestions for any new programs. We are looking for things to do. We got a lot of exciting new stuff coming up. The board is really energized, and we want to use all of your input. So put us a note in the chat or send us a message at TREIAprojects@gmail.com. And then we're going to, on this meeting today, we also have other board members, Jackie Richards and Leslie Ortiz. And before we get Andrea started, they have a few words they'd like to say to you. Leslie?
Yeah, just about upcomings, the subgroups. As everybody may have realized by now, there are 5 weeks in September. So next week is a free week. We don't have anything scheduled until TREIA South first Tuesday of October. So just check your calendars. I'll be getting the October meetings posted probably in the next few days. And you'll see what dates they are anyway, and I'll try and get some topics in advance. But next week, hey, relax, have fun. Yeah, who can relax in the real estate biz? But anyway, give it a shot. Try and catch up on some of your stuff, and have a good week next week. And we'll see you back for TREIA South second Tuesday, which I think is the 5th, something. Anyway, the Tuesday after next. So we'll see you then. Anything back to you, Jackie?
Okay, hi guys. I keep wanting to say happy Friday, and it's not Friday, it's Thursday, so I've lost the day. I see Linda Jordan. I haven't seen Linda in a long time. Hey Linda, you look beautiful. Just that Al and Cheryl joined us, so hey Cheryl, I'm gonna make this really quick. I know I said it at another meeting. Leslie's right. Next week is a TREIA free meeting week, but we are in the 4th quarter. So fall has started. I really, really, really want to encourage everybody. The time to start thinking about 2021 goals is now. Right, Linda? Give me a big shit. It is, you don't want to, the Thanksgiving's going to be here, the holidays, and then you're going to be in January 2021. And that is not the time to start from figuring out what you want to achieve next year. So now is the time. Make sure you put it on your list. Do it in October. You can put a plan around it so you can hit the ground running next year. So no more lectures, but big encouragement, guys, because if you don't plan, you're not going to get where you want to go. That's it for me. I'm going to
All
pass
right,
it.
so our very first member highlight of the meeting, or victim, as you choose to look at it, is going to be Helen Feeney. Helen and her husband Griffith joined a little while ago, and they have been so regular at the meetings. So I'm so pleased to have Helen. Helen, would you like to go right ahead?
Hi, my name is Helen Feeney. My husband and Griffith Feeney and I and our two sons, we moved from New York to North Carolina, Cary areas since January. So we received the free pass and went to the January meeting. And after that, we joined. And we just have a two chance, right? January and February, then March is it's already locked down, and so we exposed a little bit how it worked before the lockdown, and we joined the meeting most of the time when we can. And we are very new, and we retired. We are retired professors. So this is real estate investing is very new to us. So everything is we are not even like a kindergarten. We consider ourselves as a fetus stage. So right now it's about to be born, maybe 1 or 2 months. So because it's January to 9 months, so so that's our stage, how we see ourselves. And we have my husband joined the January meeting. Vina Jones is the speaker, and he joined the wholesale. So we got a connection with her. And after that, and I signed up from John Jackson's option lease, and he meets up, and it's like I paid and not like a member. So so I really thank Jackie. No, sorry. Thank you, and Chuck help out to figure that out. So that's my attitude. Thank you for helping as a member. So that's what we did, and actually starting today and tomorrow and then this weekend, we actually sign up. My husband signed up with Donna Powers Note Investing Academy, and so we will be busy. So he's attending the meeting over there, but I decided I still wanted to contact with you guys, so I come here.
That's awesome. Is there anything you guys are looking for right now from other members, or anything other members can help you with?
A lot. We haven't signed up our LLC. We have to decide the attorney and accountant and so forth. We haven't got our team, but so far we learned from various different things. We think maybe note investing we will focus on, and so so that's we wanted to focus on. And my next project, like I just sent it in chat, I said my next chapter, project is to try to join the FB, the network group.
You need to get your kids to help you out with that, Helen. The kids will teach you
yeah,
social media.
And I'm 73, and so I feel like and this old dog needed to learn some new tricks.
Well, thank you so much. If anyone has any suggestions for Helen and Griffith on their power team, feel free to send those over their way. Thank you so much, Helen, for being our first
my email is hfeeney@verizon.net.
That's great. hfeeney@verizon.net. Thanks again, Helen. Hope you enjoy the meeting today.
Thank you.
All right, without further ado, we'll turn over to Miss Audria.
Okay, well, everybody, thank you for coming. I'm really excited about this topic today. We have our very own Cheryl, who also subgroups Fayetteville, who's going to be telling us why women are qualified in the real estate area. Cheryl is a experienced rehabber, wholesaler, property manager. She's just wears a slew of hats, and who better to tell us than, well, I think she's going to be a phenomenal speaker. She represents women empowerment, so who better to tell us than our very own Cheryl. So without further ado, welcome, Cheryl.
I have unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. That was very nice. I love, everything that you said, and it's all accurate. So that's awesome. Okay, so I am going to share my screen, I believe now. Let's see if we can do this here. Okay. Yep, here we go. Okay. Can you see that now for reasons why women are underrepresented as real estate investors? Can you see that screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, good. All right. So right at the top there, so this is actually an article. I'm just going to kind of start out with this to get the ball rolling as to why this is actually something we're really representing a very low percentage in the total amount of real estate investors nationwide. The first fact that's at the top, and I pulled this up so you could see it, it's right on Bigger Pockets. You could read it yourself. And it's basically, there is a super huge fact here that women influence 91% of all of the home buying purchases. So why aren't more of us investing in real estate, right? We are driving the bus when it comes to home purchasing and all of those major life decisions. And so the fact that we're not more involved in this industry is really surprising, and you kind of have to wonder why. I think one of the biggest reasons, as they state here, is the confidence. But before we get into getting into that, just a quick kind of, we're going to back up a little bit. So by the way, if anyone has any questions during, I'm happy to take any questions as they come up, okay? So I can tell you my own story. I'll keep it short and sweet. How much time do we actually have total?
We're not super picky, Cheryl. As long as you can keep them interested.
Okay. Okay. Is there a cutoff time though for the meeting itself?
Usually we go till 12:30.
2. Okay, so I have until potentially about 1:45, 2 o'clock. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to give you a little background. So once upon a time, as a young lady, I was single, I was in my 20s, and it dates back even further than that. So looking at some social norms, sociology as it relates to this whole culture that we're in, and I'm specifically talking about the real estate market in the United States and how we are raised as girls, as women. And I can say all of this because this is Wire, and I don't have to pander to the guys right now, which is kind of a really nice feeling. So I've done a lot of research on this. And what I found was that most little girls, depending on where they're brought up in the country or what family, environment that was, or the actual, core family was made up of, most of them all were taught certain social conditioning, just like the boys were. And it went from home to school, in the classroom, into sports, into the toy store, into different environments in the mall. So when you walked into, and still to this day, when you walk into most toy stores, there's a pink section for the girls, there's a blue section for the boys. And in the pink section for the girls, it has all of the things that teach us and condition us to multitask from a very young age. So I am not a doctor of this. I am not a sociologist. This is just my own personal take on it. So bottom line, what I'm trying to get across here is that we are taught from very young age to multitask in a big, big way. So even the gift that we get for, and we ask for it because we want it, when you get a little baby doll, right? You have to multitask and not just think of yourself, your individual self, but you have to think of what does the baby need, and you're just playing mommy at that point. So as we become, moms or, wives or whatever in our lives, those same kind of expectations and obligations are put on us, which is continually forcing us to think of other people. So when you become, potentially, hypothetically, if it's a married person, you're thinking of not only your husband, you're thinking of the house, you're thinking of the housework, like all of the things that we have to multitask. And then when you add kids to the mix, and then in-laws to the mix, when you go out and you buy Christmas gifts, you're pretty much, and I can speak for myself, I would buy everybody's Christmas gift for both families, including everything for the kids and my husband, and he went out and bought one. So one gift for me, or maybe more than one, but I'm saying who's buying for one person, where the female in the relationship, or that other person in the relationship, is, as women, we're conditioned to literally multitask out every single thing. They've made countless movies about it, countless TV shows and series about it. There are blogs and blogs all over the place about the same thing. And it's kind of like where that super mom or super woman kind of thing persona was developed. And so you have this situation where a woman are literally putting every single other person in their lives, typically, before themselves. So if I saw this, in fact, with firsthand account, I remember being a young girl or young lady. I had just gotten married, and my sister came to visit with her husband, and I watched as their two children were toddlers, and I didn't realize at the time how much it was making an impression, but basically her husband, my brother-in-law, got up in the morning. His food was cooked for him the way he liked it. He got up, he ate, he went for a jog, he came back, he showered, he did what he wanted. And it was all about him, She got up, she cooked the food, to his satisfaction, by the way. And of course, who has to, go out and shop for it and get it in place and get all of that, preliminary work done as well. And then of course she took care of the kids, fed the kids, bathed the kids, dressed the kids, all that stuff, and fed, got them all out the door too. So it really kind of shows this little microcosm of the bigger picture of this sociology and conditioning that we get with that kind of fairy tale happy ending that we're, hoping for. And then it all kind of plays out realistically. And we have to learn a lot of things on the go and shoot from the hip and learn on the fly and all of those phrases. So how that pertains to this, because we have those abilities that are really innately built in qualities that we're born with, that are in our DNA, that we are wired for, in addition to what's learned. We have a greater ability to adapt to a real estate investor type situation. And this is why. When you look at a deal, you have to evaluate the deal. You have to look at a lot of moving parts. When you go to the property, you're looking at things like, how do I want this kitchen to set up? so that it gives me the best value for the makeup of it, you know, as well as bathroom. Now, does this wall have to be moved? What if we move this wall? Do we have to move plumbing? Do we have to move electrical? How much is that going to cost? Is it structural? Believe it or not, all of these things are abilities for us and skills for us to learn, because we already have proven since we were little girls with our first baby dolls that we can do this. We can do this. We've done it for decades. So when it comes to this first point of the 4 reasons why women are underrepresented of real estate investors, number 1, confidence. I think that's where it needs to start. We need to own it. You know, we have now excelled and exceeded when it comes to men and women in our achievements. I can use my daughter-in-law as a great example. My middle son, Joshua, he's married, and he is married to this lovely young lady who's my daughter-in-law. Her name is Anna, and she went to Harvard. She got her law degree from Harvard. She works for a boutique firm in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. I am amazed at her. I truly am. Now, I love my son. I'm a very proud mom of him as well. So his story was, he had a little bit harder time trying to figure out where he wanted to be in the world as far as, you know, what he wanted to pursue. So he kind of tried out a few things, went to school, stopped, and then went back to school, stopped again. And then he ended up finding his kind of passion, his calling was art. And he's always been fantastic at it. And of course, I've always told him, you know, you should pursue this, you know, do what you love if you can, and you can make money at it, which is, you know, kind of the definition of what makes us all happy, successful people. And so he did, and he actually attended MICA, which is the Maryland Institute for Contemporary Art. He graduated, very high honors. I was very proud of that, and of him. I mean, he really put the time in, but it really took a lot of work for him. It wasn't an easy, you know, thing. He was an older student because he went back to school after the second time or third time he went back. And he really kind of had to find his way. It wasn't something that was a clear path for him. And then when he did go back, now he's working, and he graduated, he got a job, wonderful job at George Washington University. He's actually a technology instructor, and he teaches the professors and the instructors how to use the technology, especially now with coronavirus. It's a big deal. So he found his way. It was very bumpy, you know, and he's very smart. So both of them are very smart people in this example, but he definitely had a more challenging time along the way than she did. And they're showing in studies now that when a woman puts her mind to it, they are more focused. They're more productive. They're more task-oriented, and in the end, they become quite successful. And I don't want to say more successful, just quite successful. And the reason why I don't say that is because the whole equal pay thing, and I won't get into that. But that's where this has really, confidence has come into play. So women tend to be less confident in their investing knowledge and skills. I'm not quite sure why that is. I don't know if it is a fear factor kind of thing. I'm open. I'd love to hear what people have to say about that, since we do have the time. You know, if you do have any comments on what is holding you back. Is it possible to open up that ability to chat if you want to about that and comment? Anybody?
They can send chats, yeah, and we can read them.
Okay, great. So if you have any questions as far as that goes, please, you know, pipe up, because I would love to know kind of, that's why, you know, an in-person presentation is great, because we can be super interactive. So we're kind of working a little bit in a different type of situation with this vacuum being on video like this, but having, you know, the confidence in your knowledge and skills and owning it. Now, I've mentored a lot of people over the years, and I found that when I asked them that question in the past, they would tell me there was paralysis analysis. So they were so caught up in trying to figure out the right way to do it for fear of making a mistake, or putting their toe in the water, so to speak, or something that they just didn't. They were very nervous, and they would hold back for fear of that. And they didn't want to make a mistake, and they didn't want to fail. So one of the biggest things when it comes to fear of failure is, you know, obviously if you don't do it at all, you're not going to fail. You're not going to succeed either. You know, so it's really important to take that first step, even if it's a small step. I have permission to talk about one of my mentoring clients' journeys, and I've talked about that before on different meetings, but I'm going to share it now. So I have a mentoring client. She's actually from Fayetteville. I've been working with her, and I work with her kind of a pay it forward. I don't charge her anything. She's a TREIA member, and she has contacted me, or did contact me a while ago now, over a year. And I've been working with her on getting past that paralysis analysis. So when she first came to me, she was literally as shy could be. She walked in, she sat as close as she could to the back corner of the room. She was the wallflower, you know, self-imposed wallflower. So she was back there. She was, you know, don't call on me, you know, the way you feel in a classroom when you don't want to be picked on or have to speak in front of anybody. And in that situation where you are, even here on video, when you're shy, it's really hard for you to show your face on video, for you to speak up and say something for fear of, you know, stuttering or messing up or whatever the case. And honestly, you're not going to be able to be super successful and productive in this industry if you can't pass, you know, get through that and kind of pop that bubble, you know, pop the bubble, get out there, because you want to network and talk to people. So she came in, she sat in the far back. Her husband was there with her. After the meeting was over, and I can't even remember the topic, was probably something to do with evaluating real estate or something. And she comes up to me at the end and she says, you know, hi, my name is Jessica, and I would really like to, you know, maybe meet you, have a coffee or something, and I have a bunch of questions and maybe you can help me. And so we did, and I met her, and we went over all kinds of things that she was sharing with me, that mainly she was afraid to fail. She didn't want to do it and make a mistake. She didn't want to enter into a contract and forget something and be held liable or have to pay money or lose money or whatever. So we talked about all of those potential things, and one by one, we went through each of those items and we determined worst case scenario. If she did this, what's the worst that can happen? What if you did this? What if you did that? So we basically kind of addressed everything and came up with solutions, or kind of overcoming the objection of that fear to build up her ability to move forward past that. So then what we did is we actually spent a little bit of time meeting with people. So she had gone out. She said, I have a bunch of, you know, abandoned home addresses and potential absentee owners, and I would love to be able to approach them, but I'm so nervous that if I do, I don't have the confidence, that I might blow it and I might say the wrong thing and they're going to know I'm new. And I said, that's okay if they know you're new. You know, you let them know you're working with somebody, that you have, you know, a partner, so to speak, you know, that you're working with, or associate, whatever, colleague, whatever you want to call it, and bring me into that conversation, and we can tag team it together. We can do it on the phone, we can do it in person, whatever works. And whenever you're doing that, those first steps, obviously you're probably speaking to somebody over the phone as they contact you back through your initial kind of, you know, reaching out to them to let them know you might be interested in making an offer on the house. So when they called back, we would add the, you know, jump in on a three-way call. So I was speaking to them, Jessica introduced and bridged the introduction, and then I would speak to the person directly, and I would ask permission. Hi, Joan, do you mind if I speak to you on behalf of both Jessica and myself? And thank you, Jessica, for introducing us. And they would say, yes, of course. And I say, okay. And then I would kind of go down that road. And as she listened, she gained confidence, she gained skills, and so on. And she found her niche. And what it really ended up being is she came across a trailer park that had a couple of mobile homes for sale. And so she purchased the first one, I think it was somewhere in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. That was a year ago, and she put very little into it and turned around and rented it out. So today she owns 12 total in a year she's purchased. She's been able to give notice to leave her job, which is a dental hygienist. And she actually now, I got a phone call at my office to develop a mobile home park. And we don't manage mobile homes, but because Jessica's done so well with it, I referred them to her. And so she's now working with them on this whole development where they're adding, I think it's 9 or something to a 12 unit as well. And so she's actually getting a consulting fee, which is about almost $1,000 a month just with, you know, working with that group. So it's a year-long process. So it's about $12,000, give or take. So a year ago, she wouldn't have had the confidence to do that. She's still learning. She still calls with questions. But she said to me, and the person I see today and the person I saw over a year ago, it's night and day. You know, now she calls me and she's, you know, strong. She's speaking to me with confidence. She's complaining, of course, because we all do, and venting, but she knows she's got it, you know. And so I really think that now that she feels like all women do when they get to that point, that they have the knowledge and they have the skills, they know how to speak and how to handle it. And don't be afraid if you don't know something, you can always respond with, I don't know. And I say this a lot to people, I don't know, but I will check on it and I will get back to you. And that way you don't have to be afraid for not knowing an answer. You know, you can certainly manage that situation. And I'm sure you do that in other ways, in other parts of your life anyway. But when it comes to this, and you're talking to a potential home seller, homeowner, all of a sudden people freeze up and they're like, oh no, what do I do? What do I say? And a lot of that has to do with being shy or not being comfortable speaking publicly or speaking to other people they don't know. So in this industry, either you got to be able to do it, or you have to find someone who can partner up or work with you in that capacity to balance it out that can do that if you're not comfortable with it. Okay. So this statement where when women tend to be less confident in their knowledge and skills doesn't mean that they're less knowledgeable or less skilled, obviously. They can, you know, I can say after coaching people, as well as this person who wrote this article, that the perceived lack of confidence is very common. I see that quite frequently. And I don't know if it's because we're sort of like meant to, you know, feel like we're taking a back seat to the guy or whatever. But let me tell you, put on that Wonder Woman suit, you know, even if it's virtual, if it's in your mind and imaginary, you know, and do that Wonder Woman stance and just feel good about owning this process because you got it. I mean, you have the ability. We're really detail oriented. As you know, women, moms, wives, whatever, as women, we are making lists. We're checking the lists. We're going through the process, you know, the scopes of work that are developed and the order of the scopes of work, even in the timelines for purchasing a home that you're going to be using as an investment property, and then repairing that is all something we're very capable at doing. We're very resourceful too. I mean, if we don't have an answer, we usually can call someone or 2 or 3 people that can give us that answer. And if we can't get the person to answer it, we can go online and, hey, there's Google, you know, and Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use has answers. Just make sure that you read them thoroughly and you feel good with their content so that you can literally come away with a resource or knowledge or whatever. And obviously I'm going to plug it just because who we are and where we are. TREIA, oh my gosh, the education, the knowledge, the experience that's part of this group is amazing. It's literally, I can't even imagine if somebody took all of the years of real estate experience and you added it together from all of the members, you'd probably be in the million range of, you know, hours, you know, of education or years of experience or whatever the case. So use TREIA as a great resource in, you know, meetings like this. So, all right. So the quandary is that the information, perhaps too much, is everywhere. So it can be paralyzing, like we talked about. It can kind of freeze you up because you don't know, like, oh, when, what, where. So just be very in your Google search, believe it or not. And I see this in my husband and me as we search online. I will search something and I want something specific, so I'll be at the way I put in my Google search words are extremely different, because we get very different response answers or results that come up, you know, on the system. So, you know, say I'm looking for, my husband loves Tervuren shepherds. He wants to adopt one. And I had never even heard of it, but it's a specific breed. So he was looking for breeders in North Carolina because we found some different parts of the country. And so I said, well, instead of finding one in Washington State, you know, why don't you look for one specific to North Carolina or the surrounding area here? So he put in a search and I put in a search. And I can tell you our results were, I couldn't be polar opposite, more polar opposite. So basically my point is that because we're resourceful people as women, we have the ability to avoid seeing all of that information and not know how to take action or use what as a resource. We can actually hone in pretty quickly, because I think we kind of have that ability to do that. And you don't want to doubt yourself. You don't want to think about what steps, next steps, what, you know, look it up. You know, there's pretty much everything out there on the order renovation process should go. If you can't find it, email me, I'll send you mine. You know, there is a very specific process when it comes to real estate investing and the process of buying, the things you do prior to closing. And if you are married and you know, you probably went through those checklists, or if you had a child and you got the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, right? If you didn't get it at your baby shower, somebody bought it or you bought it. These are all of those resources that we had for other parts of what we did in our lives. Why not have it for this as well? So like I said, TREIA is a fantastic resource for the education, the knowledge, the skills, and there are other places out there that you can get it from as well. And Bigger Pockets is actually a really good example of that. So just keep in mind that you can find those processes. So since I brought that up and we have time to talk about it, I want to just say that when it's common sense, just remember that approach works best when you are talking about a scope of work, which is basically the description of how you fix up a house from not good to rentable and or sellable if you're flipping it, right? So there's not that many working parts as far as that goes. What it really comes down to is the process that you adopt or adapt or create for that next step. So as we are used to these wonderful checklists that we've had since the beginning of time, you know, getting ready for school, getting ready for whatever, going off to college, the wedding checklist, 1 week out, 1 day out, 1 hour out. We're used to this stuff, right? So use those same checklists, you know, when you're talking about buying, closing, what you do beforehand, what you do during the day of, what you need to have set up after you've purchased the property and you want the work to start right away, you know. If at all possible, you've already found a contractor. You already have their scope in prices and everything, and you've agreed on something. So you can begin this process pretty much the day of or day after closing. So you minimize, and if I could hear everybody and we were in person, you could tell me, but you'd be minimizing your vacancy loss, right?
Cheryl, everyone has the ability to unmute. If you would like them to talk, you can just let them know.
Yeah, please, that'd be great. So
You always just remember to stay muted when you're not talking, but if you want to talk, everybody can unmute themselves if you'd like.
Okay, that's great. I would love some feedback if you guys have something to say. Don't be shy, please. So yeah, so when you purchase this house, and I'm sure Kathy and everybody involved in the, I'm sorry, what is the model program called? The pilot program?
Yep.
Okay, so that model program, that's the pilot, there is a process involved with all of that, obviously. But the first day that you have ownership, that's the day that you want Maybe if it's not a Sunday or a holiday or something, you can work around things, but you really want to have your contractor there. You want to take ownership. You want the keys. You want to put your lockbox on there. You want to get the demo started, so you can see progress. And the more you do right out of the gate, the better for your finish date. You know, obviously you can stay on track because things happen. You know, nothing goes perfectly. There's always going to be a curveball, and we're really good at catching curveballs as women. Okay, so just keep in mind we have the ability and the skill, and you can be confident in that. You just I got to unmute there. Can you hear me still? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Good now.
Awesome. Awesome. So, so the next step, obviously, once you kind of get in there and you've already got your scope, is you would have already gone through the materials that you need, the diagram of the kitchen or the house or the bathroom or whatever. So those are preliminary things to actually the closing date. And then once you have your contractor, you're working hand in hand with them. And you, as a woman, I can tell you, and this is firsthand experience, being in the property management industry for 27 years, I would walk onto the job site. Right, and we'd have a development going with a brand new multifamily, you know, big building, scattered site, hundreds of units, and I would literally walk on. Even though I wasn't wearing a skirt, maybe I was wearing socks or whatever, there was a guy that was actually in a front end loader, and I was in Fall River, Massachusetts when this happened. And he said, because I walked there with the maintenance supervisor, I was actually the operations manager in that position at that time, and had a general contractor's license that I had achieved in Massachusetts. So I knew my stuff. I'd been through a lot of turnovers. I'd flipped houses, and it wasn't called that then, but had done all this stuff. And I walk up, and the guy in this front end loader says, "Who's the skirt?" So you can imagine how much I enjoyed that comment, you know? And I thought, wow, wow. And I'm like, what year are we in? You know? And I just, oh, wow. And so the guy I was with, I had been working with him for a while, and he just looked at me, and I think he was looking for a reaction. And I just stood there, and the guy was, you know, whatever. And he said, you know, this is Cheryl, and she's overseeing blah, 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 this work. And the guy kind of, you know, and I think he was probably, you know, I want to say like smoking a cigarette or cigar or something, but, you know, I didn't take to him real well. You know, my feelings were kind of like, you know, listen, don't assume anything, because you're going to make a blank out of you and me, right? And he assumed that I didn't have knowledge, that I didn't have authority, you know, or any of that. And when I had first gotten to that particular site, I remember walking with the superintendent during the due diligence inspections, and, you know, most of the units were occupied, but there were a few that weren't. And I remember going into a couple, and they were completely gutted. And I could see that there were some issues with the flooring, which you're going to see when you're flipping a house, when you're doing a buy and hold renovation, you know, for a BRRR strategy. So some of the things you're going to learn along the way. You don't need to know them right now, but you're going to pick up on stuff because you just do naturally, you know. So I had done a few of these, and I looked down at the floor, and we're talking a concrete slab, first floor, and I could see the cement was a mess, and it needed a leveler before they put down the tile. So I just asked, and his name was Umberto, who's actually from Portugal. So a little broken English there, but we had a great ability to communicate with one another, so it worked out really well. And basically, he said, you know, what do you think? And I said, well, I think you need a floor leveler. And, you know, so, and it's basically just an FYI little aside for a second, floor leveler is a liquid that you mix up, and it dries like a cement. And gravity actually makes it level. right? Because of the world's gravity. So you don't have to worry about making sure that everything is, because it fills in all the little holes in the gaps so that you have a nice level surface. So you let it cure, day, 2 days out. Once it's solid as a rock, then you can put stuff on top. You don't have to worry about floors, wavy or pitted or holes or whatever. So I mentioned that to him, and then we went over and looked at some walls, and I talked about some joint compound and some different things. And I think because he was kind of old school guy, he looked at me like, you know what you're talking about, completely shocked. And that was the same site that I walked down, and the guy was a different guy, he was a subcontractor, but said, hey, who's the skirt? So the guy I was working with that was with me, as I said, looked at me and kind of was surprised that I didn't say anything. I walked away, and that was the end of it. But I didn't even complain. I didn't say a word to this guy that I was with, Steve, who was a maintenance guy. And he went out there, he talked to, on my behalf, and I didn't ask him to, honestly. He talked to the crew, and he had that guy removed from the job site because he just felt that it wasn't appropriate. So we went back in. He came back in after that, and he basically told me that guy's not going to be here anymore. And I said, wow, I hope he's okay as far as like his job and everything. He says, yeah, they just reassigned him down the street or whatever. So everything's fine, but he shouldn't be saying things like that. And I just felt like I needed to step up, on behalf of both you and us as a company. So he handled it. So I can see why women have a really hard time, getting in there strong, staying strong, and really owning it, and sometimes you're not quite sure what to do when it actually happens, but, just trust your gut and take the high road, all right. So,
Hey, Cheryl.
doubting. Yeah,
Oh, I just want to jump in for a minute.
please.
So the scenario that you just described with somebody saying, oh, who's the skirt?
Yeah.
And I think those, especially people who have been around for a while have certainly come across those exceptions. But I do think that it truly is the exception and not the rule. One of the things that I used to tell people, especially females that I would mentor, is that, the way you approach a situation really has a direct correlation to how, what the end result is of that correlation. So I've found that sometimes, and especially if you're new to a business and at one that is more male dominated, if you come in with, and it really speaks to what you were talking about earlier with confidence, but if you go into the situation and you're nervous because you're anticipating that you're not going to be taken as seriously because you're a female, you really have to get that thought out of your head, guys, because the only thing it's going to do is hold you down. And because it's going to come out in the way you voice or interact with whoever it is that you're dealing with. I took a fantastic course, and it really changed. It pivoted my career. It changed the way I dealt with situations, and it was called Influencing Without Direct Control. And the whole premise is keeping your eye on what the outcome is. What is your objective? And then defining the best way using your skills and your talents to achieve that objective. And sometimes that's putting your ego on the table. Sometimes it's developing a plan that helps you use your skills to influence in a scenario where you don't have direct control. And so I would encourage everybody that, especially being a female in a male-oriented profession, is that you put that, you don't let it become your own hindrance. So just don't walk into situations, and you're going to come across some where people just are going to be a jerk, and somebody's going to say, hey, who's the skirt? And, and when that happens, you'll find ways to deal with it. But the vast majority of the time, It's not an issue. I mean, it really isn't. And I think when it's made an issue, sometimes we bring that upon ourselves because we walk in and we'll think if a situation didn't go the way we planned, it's really easy. So I'm going to say something that's probably unpopular, but sometimes it's really easy to go back and go, oh, they wouldn't have reacted that way if I was a male, or it's because I'm a female. And chances are, if you take a step back and you really evaluate the scenario, it was because there's things that, you know, maybe it was a lack of knowledge or the way you presented something or a question. I'm not saying you, Cheryl, but but sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you're female.
Yeah.
Just that you didn't handle the situation well. And if we can train ourselves to take a step back and go, how could I have handled that differently to achieve a better result, and then try it the next time, chances are you'll get a better result. So
Yeah. I agree. It's all how you handle it and how you frame it, for sure. I would say that that's probably more or less, more than often than not. I think, though, that in particular environments that it's just kind of the mentality. And I can just, give you a couple of examples. So I went into a big box store. I won't say the name. I have done a lot of tile work. When you flip houses, you learn to do a lot of work yourself. And just a tip for all of you lovely ladies out there, there are these great, and I mean, right now with COVID, I'm not sure what the schedules are like of when they're going to restart, but there are wonderful workshops in these big box stores like Home Depot and Lowe's and everything, where you can learn on the weekend. They do this little DIY thing, and they have a calendar, and maybe you're learning how to tile, and they give you some tile and mortar and grout and a cutter and teach you how to do those basic things. And there's all kinds of manner of different topics that this is, covers. So, I did learn. I didn't do it that way. I've seen that since, and it's certainly an option for people now. And I've certainly sent people to do that if they're interested and want to. But bottom line, I went out and kind of, so I'm dating myself a little bit, but I went out and got a book, that 1, 2, 3 home improvement orange book. And I had never tiled, and I had to do my first tiling, and I didn't want to spend I kept getting estimates and bids from different contractors for tons of money to tile this little area. It was a foyer entry. And I mean, they were coming in thousands of dollars. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So I got this book, and I thought, I'm going to try it. And I did it, and I did it, and did it, and more. And I started doing some backsplash tiles. Some backsplash tiles in my assistant got that, okay. In the flips that I was doing, the houses I was doing, as far as buy and holds. And I learned, and I got it, and I started doing it pretty regularly. So what I'm getting to is when I went into one of those stores, and I'm probably about 10 years ago, maybe, I was there. I had a person with me that happened to be a guy, but they didn't know anything about tiling. It was my son. He was a teenager at the time, my youngest. And I walked up to this guy in the tile aisle, and I said, hi, do you have any non-sanded grout? And I was installing a large format marble, black marble tile into this really nice house entryway. And he said, oh, sweetie, you're not looking for that. And I was like, I'm not? And he said, no, you want sanded grout. And I said, well, this is a large format tile. I actually need non-sanded grout, like no silica, no sand in it, the granules. And he says, no. So he takes me over and he shows me the stuff. And so I said, oh, okay. And he goes, this is the stuff you need. So I looked, put on my glasses, and I looked at the description on the bag, instructions, and it says, for large format, you want to use a non-sanded grout. And so I said, this is actually saying here, kind sir, that this is not the right stuff. And actually it's this. And so he looks at my son, again, teenager, and he says, so when are you doing this tile? And my son looked, and and he was like, you know, he's a teenager. I'm teaching him stuff, you know? And so he was working for me for the summer, I think, probably at that point. And so he just said, no, I don't do this. And he was like hammering, hawing and hemming, you know. And bottom line, you know, he says, my mom does it. And he literally, I couldn't have been, I melted, my heart melted in the moment. My son took out his phone and he showed this guy on his phone gallery pictures he had taken of the tile that I had done that I didn't even know he had taken pictures of. And he's like, oh, look, she did this. And he's showing. And the guy goes, and he like looks at me and he's like, oh, okay, well, and I thought to myself, you know, first of all, I'm super proud of my son. And secondly, unfortunately, that wasn't the only time that happened. And, you know, so I think having the confidence, owning it, how you deal with the situation, definitely. And I think that guy learned something that day. You know, don't read a book by its cover, judge a book by its cover, right? You have to kind of step back these days, especially, and you never know who's going to come in and do what, when, where, and what they're doing. And, you know, you have to listen to the customer and not assume. And that happens a lot, not only in those big box stores and places like that sometimes, I shouldn't say a lot, but it also happens with contractors. There's a couple of contractor tricks of the trade, I would say, where they say things like, what is your budget? And when they say that, and I've been to these internal contractor meetings where we were doing a big meetup kind of thing, trying to hire and vet people. And I asked them some of the things, you know, what are some of the things that you ask homeowners to know, you know, what kind of bid you're going to put in, or how much you're going to bid for, or who you're dealing with and their level of experience. And their first response, I can promise you every single time, was, I always ask them, what's your budget? And if they answer back with a number, they're like, then I know I got them and I can charge them whatever, and they're going to pay it because they don't know any better. And so we, as women in real estate investing, we have to know we're not telling them what our budget is. We're getting them to do a proper estimate, itemized materials and labor, line by line. The last thing that you want, and I'm sure anyone who's dealt with a contractor, period, will tell you, is a paragraph with a lump sum number for $50,000. You want it broken down. And the reason why you want it broken down is you want to hold them accountable to every single piece of that job. If they don't do something, how do you know what amount to deduct if they mess up, or if the material cost of this, or whatever? You need to be able to have that detail. You want to pinpoint that, okay? So in this case, you know, when the contractors come out, you're the female, the woman, the wire lady in charge, and you're you know, you got the control, you got the reins, right? You're driving that bus, and the contractor's getting on board your bus if you let them, once you've interviewed him and you've entered into an agreement with him, and make sure you do a good agreement on the contractor, you know, agreement that protects you, not just them. And I'm sure Kathy can probably, you know, play into that a little bit or a lot. So basically what you're doing is you're telling them this is what you want to develop, that scope, before you meet with a contractor and you walk through a house with a contractor. You don't want to go in there and go, I don't know, what do you think? What do we do? You know, because that's giving them like a blank check, basically. You know, not actually, but obviously they're thinking, oh, sky's the limit. And they're going to assume you're not going to know a lot of stuff. And they're going to try and put things by you and add things here and take down a wall there. And, you know, if you ever get into a situation like that, stop. Call somebody that you can call on, you know, a buddy, a person in TREIA that knows flipping, you know, and ask them, does this sound right to you? You know, so don't let them drive your bus. You know, you be the bus driver. You're the woman in charge. Okay, you're driving down that road, and on your bus, you've got your power team, right? You've got your contractor, your attorney, you know, all the people that you need to get that job from A to Z done. Okay, so feel confident in that. So we're talking about time now, and I understand it's 1:39. So just keeping that in mind. So women tend to struggle, obviously, finding time to do things. We have the ability to do a lot. We juggle a lot. So I really think it's all about, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but it made an impact on me. I remember the year, many years ago, I say that a lot, don't I? When Oprah came out and she said that, you know, just say no, like not say no to drugs. That's good too. That was Nancy Reagan, right? But when she said sometimes you just have to say no, like decline, you know, invitations to things or whatever, so you can have time to do what you need to do for you, and also to keep yourself, you know, mentally okay, and then also so you can carve out things for yourself that you can develop and work on that you want to do. And that's what this is all about, this whole section. It's, you know, and she, in this article here where she's really talking about all those things that I talked about in the beginning, is those conditional things and what we do when we're a mom, you know, all those things, the kitchen's being spotless, the meals being cooked, the laundry clean, you know, all of that. So the point is that we're beginning to flip that narrative that family work is only about the house and the kids. No, that this also includes investing, making financial health one of your family's priorities, or your work or legacy priority. So, you know, if you don't do the laundry that day, that minute, I don't think we're gonna lose any, I hope not gonna lose any sleep over it. Okay, let some dishes pile up in the sink if you want to listen to a podcast or be a part of this wire presentation or whatever the case. Okay, so the third is, and this comes up a lot, I have a lot of people come and say to me when they're first starting out, and especially this was pre coming down and doing the TREIA thing, where we didn't charge for our consulting. So I would have a consulting fee agreement and so on. And if it was, I can tell you, I mean, this is my own experience. So it's, you know, I can share this. When it was a man, he had no problem signing the dotted line, making that financial decision without consulting anybody. Typically, if it was a female, a woman, she would have to check with, you know, the other people in their life, their support network, so to speak. And sometimes it would come back as, yeah, they don't want me to do that. And sometimes they'd still do it and say they just don't have a good support network. And the pain I felt for them was so real, you know, where their family was saying, don't, you know, this is a scam, you know, you hear everything, right? And really what it comes down to is, and this is just based on my own opinion and the experience that I've had with it, is the people who say no and are that, the fear really, are the people that don't know. They've not done something like this before successfully. They're used to the 9-to-5 situation or whatever. And nothing is wrong with that, but it's just this is fearful for them. And they're trying to protect that person in their life, right? Don't do this, don't invest in this, what if, right? But really, the people, and I would ask them, you know, does this person have any experience with this? Well, no. Okay, and then the person that would say, yeah, I'm supportive, does this person? Well, yeah, I asked my friend who actually has an investment property. Oh, okay. So of course they're getting a completely different answer, right? It's supportive, it's helpful, they feel like they have some kind of you know, connection and camaraderie with that person, and they can lean on them. So support network, you know, we are drawn as women to community, right? And that's why this WIRE group is so fantastic, honestly. So going back, you know, to the stark differences between, you know, what women were, or girls and little boys were taught when we were just growing up and kind of forming our behaviors, it's very different, you know, throughout time, society, and so on. Obviously, things have changed. But, you know, obviously what it comes down to is you know, and your personal growth, your community that you have, the support that you have at home, and you know, it depends on who truly you're surrounding yourself with. So my advice in this when it comes to support network is pick and choose, you know, honestly, who you are speaking to, even when it's your friends, when you're talking to people through this industry and this community online and so on. So, you know, very successful people. There was this wonderful book called 3 Feet from Gold, or 3 Foot from Gold, 3 feet, I think it was. And it was originally Napoleon Hill was being, you know, was the original person who had interviewed all these extremely successful titans. And this other guy came along, and I can't remember his name, the author, but the book is called 3 Feet from Gold. And you can look it up on Amazon or whatever, I'm sure. And basically this says, it was this wonderful compilation of all of these updated interviews for people who had been wildly successful and how they got there. And invariably repeated over and over and over through this entire book, through all of these interviews in the compilation, was because I surround myself with people that do it better, that are smarter, because I know what my limitations are. I can stay in my lane and I know how to do that well, but I can draw on this person for this or this or this. And, you know, even, you know, as controversial as it may be to say this out loud, you know, Trump has been quoted, and I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just saying, okay, Trump has been quoted in saying, you know, years ago before he was president, you know, what do you attribute your success to? And he said, because I surround myself with people smarter than myself. You know, smarter people. And those are the people that I lean on. So I don't know if that's necessarily true when he went through the whole political process, but prior to, I think that's probably what his, you know, was trying to do. So I do think that that support network, who you talk to, who you share with, and who you're going to be confident and stand up and say, no, I'm doing this. There was a guy that I worked with up in Massachusetts. He wanted to do this company, start a company, and his friend was telling him, no, it's a bad idea. And he was really, really negative and really pulling him down. And he would share this with me on a regular basis. And he said, you know, this guy, he just won't stop. He's super negative. I can't stand it. And I said, well, it's your decision, but maybe you don't have any more conversations with him about it or communicate or whatever. And honestly, he kind of kept it to a real minimum. And after a year of him being in business and doing very well, and being very successful, not in real estate, this was actually, he was selling, doing this cabinet sales thing. The guy asked him for a job. So I think that tells you a lot about people's insecurities and their own kind of how they react to things. You know, they don't like other people maybe to succeed, and maybe that's part of why they don't always support. So the fourth item is social biases. So we're stepping into power publicly. We're stepping into power privately. So it is an elephant in the room. And there are many things that we need to be aware of as far as, you know, the successes with men, women, cultural awareness, you know, all these things that we've been going through as a whole, as a nation, you know. So when it comes to, you know, drive and ambition, I have been told in my past that as a woman, you shouldn't want to do this, this, and this. You should just be happy with being married and having kids, you know. You know, I'll tell you, I'm 54 years old. When I was in college, I graduated. I was very, very low, and as a small amount of us that didn't already, we either weren't engaged or getting married or married, one of the three. And I had a lot of pressure. People were putting a lot of pressure, like, Cheryl, you better find a husband, you better get married. And honestly, I was 21, 22, and I had that major pressure, culturally, socially speaking, from family, from internal people, peer pressure, right? And I went out there and I found a guy and we got married, and I felt like the pressure was lifted. And then the next set of pressure was have children. When are you having children, right? So all these pressures are put on us. But when I wanted to do something more, like start my own business or do something that wasn't the norm, the herd mentality, right? I was told, don't do that. You just follow the rules. You don't start new ones. You follow them. And so that was a big pill for me to swallow, but I did it. And I worked in corporate America for 23 years. And now, 4 or 5 years ago, we have broken out and we're doing our own thing, and I couldn't be happier. So it's a wonderful thing to take control and do your own thing and own it. So I hope that that is helpful for you. And I want to recruit more women, more real estate investor women. And I think by doing that, it's through the educational content, through empowerment, through groups like this, and being supportive in this community. So I'm just going to put it out there. If I can be supportive in any way, please reach out. Obviously, I'm a TREIA member. I'm a subgroup leader down here in Fayetteville, but I am available by email, by phone, or whatever. If it's okay, I can share my contact information, or you can get it from TREIA or Adria or whomever. So.
Oh, Cheryl, go ahead and put it
Say
on.
it?
Yeah, absolutely. Share.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or put
sure.
Or
So
put it in the chat to everyone. That might be good as well.
okay, I will do that as soon as I have everything kind of up and sharing the screen right now. So, but I'll just say, so it's really easy. Patriot, as in like the patriot, like a veteran patriot of the country, kind of thing, and also the New England Patriots. But so Patriot Real Estate I'm sorry. Hello, I can't even say. Here, I'm like thinking the wrong thing. So it's Patriot Real Estate Services at gmail.com. So Patriot word, real estate, 2 words, and then services is plural with an S on the end. So Patriot Real Estate Services at gmail.com. My phone number is 910-758-1014. Okay, so if you have any questions and you want to reach out and you're a little nervous or need some words of support or whatever, I'm happy to be that person for you. In fact, I would be honored. Okay, questions, comments?
Oh, Cheryl,
I have a
thank
comment.
you.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, go.
I have a comment. I thought your program, this presentation was very inspiring. It reminded me actually of some of the instances I've had for instance, the plumber that came to visit me who only wanted to talk to my husband, or the one that called me little lady, or some of these things kind of hit home. So yeah.
Yeah.
So even though you're right, you're right to an extent. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens, and when it happens, it's not, it's not a good feeling. But I appreciate where you're coming from with this.
And honestly, can I tell you, my husband, and not to be judgy or anything at all, and pass judgment on him, I mean, but he now knows. We've been through this a lot, so. If it happens, he just goes, and he like walks away. I'm like, oh boy, they didn't go there. Oh no, they didn't go there, And I'm not like, oh, and I'm like, drop the mic or like some big reaction. I just, I feel like I just sort of have the knowledge, and so I can own it quietly. And it's one of those, and I say this to people in a workplace environment. I haven't had to say it for many years, but I say this to people just because I'm nice. They're like, oh, you're so sweet. I can't imagine you yelling at anybody. And then I look at my kids and I'm like, oh yeah, she could yell at people. So I always say, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. Just because I'm being nice and I'm kind doesn't mean I'm not checking the boxes, my ducks aren't in a row, and I'm not going to be a strong person. So, and the same with residents. We manage a lot of doors now, and we're growing all the time. And by the way, if you know anybody, refer to us, please. But anyway, a shameless plug. But we have tenants that they really feel like they should have special treatment. And I say to them, you know, Mrs. Smith or whoever, I would love to do that for you, but if I did that for you, that wouldn't be fair to everybody else. And this is what your lease says, this is what the policy is, and we have to be fair. So they go, oh, okay. And I think that that helps. It speaks to them. So yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that comment. I can completely relate. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Helen. Thank you very much. Very good, and reminds me several things that and I would like to share here too. Because you know, I'm Chinese, and when we went lived in Hawaii that time, and at that time I was teaching at the University of Hawaii, and and during the weekend I work in the yard, and two ladies, Caucasian ladies, come up and come to talk to me. The first thing they ask is, "Do you speak English?" That's the first thing, because to them, Oriental maybe cannot speak English. So that's the first thing. So then I invite them into my house and talk to them what I did and so forth. And later, one of the lady have a family problem. Actually, come to my house and ask help. So, so that's one thing is you know, we needed to know. I mean, at the beginning, people don't know you. They will just have some perceptions
Mm-hmm.
and about you, and so you cannot be angry because people ask you, "Do you speak English?" At the, you know, as the first sentence.
Yeah, and you know
Um,
what, Helen? You could even say, I speak more than just English. I speak several languages. How about you? No, I'm like
that's one thing. It's my experience in Hawaii, and I would like to say something when I was in Taiwan, and I taught in the university, and I was in late 20s that time, and the department was not thinking I'm good enough, so they actually put a higher position professor's name there. And at that time, I'm doing the summer training for over 50 of elementary school principals for their continuation education. And you know, the whole group, over 50 of them, maybe just one or two female. Most of them is male and the late 50s, that kind of age. And I remember, you know, when the bell rang and the class start, I come in, step on the platform and starting use my chalk and writing things on the blackboard and starting to teach it. And you can see all the faces down there. Everybody staring in shock. And this, this lady, and later found out that I'm the teacher for them. And after one day, I mean, it's a whole day, morning and afternoon. And after that, one of the principal come to talk to me and said, "Wow, you really know what you are talking about." And it really changed their perception about, you know, young female come to teach whole bunch of the old principals of the, you know, school.
yeah.
I love those
Yeah.
moments. I love those moments when you get to make that point. Yes, thank you, Helen. Thank you so much. Audrey, do you have any parting words?
Well, again, thank you, Cheryl, for that presentation. I think it hit home with a lot of us. And on that note, if
Can't hear.
Oh, I think we lost Audrey.
Okay, Audria,
Hello?
here you go. You're back.
Oh dear, I keep pressing the wrong button. Sorry. Where did I get cut off?
On that note,
Okay. Well, on that note, please join us for next month's Wire. We have we have a special treat coming up. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but look out for the promotions for it. I hope to see everybody again next month. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.